Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to another live stream, another Flesh Talks live stream, talking football, talking some of the biggest headlines that are buzzing around the world that we all know and love of football. And to be perfectly honest with you, the main bulk of this story about the most fascinating are surrounding football right now. That is Chelsea Football Club. Yes, there are other stories that we will get into. I want to talk a little bit about Marc Guehi going to Newcastle. I want to talk about the Crystal Palace situation. There's Joachim Andersen as well. Looks like he's leaving for Fulham. There may be some other stories that may crop up. There may be some other things that we may talk about. You guys may actually have things that you want to talk about as well in terms of any stories that you want to talk about. We're greatly interested to hear anything and everything that you guys want to talk about as well. So would be greatly interested if you, like Titan Rowan here, can get involved in the chat. Hit the like button as well. Subscribe if you're new and want to see more content like this. Both things always and probably be greatly appreciated. But I'd love it if you guys, like Titan Rowan here, would love to get into the chat, talking about the things that we want to talk about or things that you guys want to talk about as well. Hey, dude, how are you doing? I hope you are well, my friend. Hope you are very well indeed. Would love to hear what we all have to think about these situations. A little bit professionally. Getting there, bro. Getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there. Slowly but surely, we're working our way up. Hope you are well anyway, dude. Hope you are well. Hope you are enjoying life right now, whether it be on a football level or a personal level. Hope everything's going well, my friend. So, we're starting off the conversation with Chelsea and Raheem Sterling. This situation has completely exploded over the past few days, since obviously it was announced that Sterling would not be a part of the team that took on Manchester City, since his statement that was released an hour or so before kickoff. And even then, that's just a small part of the story when you consider the overall bigger picture of what Chelsea Football Club is right now, which is an absolute circus of a football club. As Titan Rowan even says here, Chelsea is embarrassing, but ruthless at the same time. And I completely agree. And if there's any kind of story to do with Chelsea in this current state that perfectly sums up what you've just said there, bro, it is this Raheem Sterling situation. It is both ruthless and somewhat embarrassing at the same time. And I'm not quite sure where I sit on this, in all honesty. I think, honestly, that I sit on the fence with these kinds of things because, let's face it, for those of you who don't know, the situation is that Chelsea are seemingly trying to force Raheem Sterling out the club. That is basically what, from the outside looking in, it looks like. Chelsea and Enzo Maresca have basically turned around to Raheem Sterling and said he has no future at this club. He's not going to be playing at all this season, and that he should be looking at his possibilities in football elsewhere. This seemingly happened a few days before the season even began. Balum, hey there, dude. Hope you are well. Crystal Palace and South East London are selling Joachim Andersen too. Is this good for Joe Gomez? It could open the opportunity. It could open the door for Gomez to go to Palace, and that would be a wonderful move for him. But we will get onto that a little later, my friend, when we'll talk about that situation. So yes, it seems that Chelsea are trying to get rid of Raheem Sterling. Now, my initial thoughts on that are it's ruthless from Chelsea. He's on a lot of money. He is on a lot of money, reportedly. So they are just trying to get rid of him, frees up a space in the team. They're trying to trim what is already a bloated squad. They're trying to get, or trying to at least save some space on the wage bill. 100% understanding and get that. But in my opinion, it is somewhat disrespectful. And the statement that Enzo Maresca put out about this guy, I'm calling BS on it. I've got to be honest, I'm calling BS on it because it makes no sense to me. How do you go an entire summer not knowing about the future of Raheem Sterling, only to turn around to him a few days before the season begins and goes, "You're not going to be part of my plans for the future. You are not a kind of winger that I like. You're a good player, but you're not the winger that I like. I prefer different types of wingers to you." How is that possible? Now, as a Liverpool fan that has endured a long summer of our club doing nothing and peddling out this stuff about how Arne Slot needs to assess the squad, he needs to give everybody a fair chance, he needs to look at everyone. I don't buy it then. I don't buy this from Chelsea right now. I really, really don't. And I'll tell you for why. The bad thing about selling Sterling is that they got no real senior leaders in that team. An experience factor, which we will discuss, definitely. It's very strange that. Chelsea is full of potential kids, but that needs guidance. Absolutely, 100% guaranteed. Hey, Nick, how you doing, bro? Hope you are well. I'm all good. Thanks, bro. Appreciate you stopping by. Raheem Sterling and leaving, and we'll be interested to see where he goes. Absolutely. We will discuss his future as well later on down the line in this same live stream. I tell you for why I don't buy this whole thing. Are you seriously telling me that a player that's been in the Premier League since he broke through to the Liverpool senior squad level at the age of 18 in Raheem Sterling is this unknown entity that Enzo Maresca just happened to just discover as soon as he walked into that Chelsea team, had no idea how Sterling played, had no idea about Raheem Sterling? This is a guy he worked with when he was with Manchester City under Pep Guardiola. He was there. I'm pretty sure he was there. Are you telling me this guy had no idea who Raheem Sterling was, what his game was, what type of winger he was? And yet, this is a guy that worked with him all summer, and a few days before the season begins goes, "Nah, don't want this guy no more. Get rid. Thanks for joining pre-season. Thanks for being just an extra player in pre-season, but we don't want you no more. Cast him aside. Get him gone." I'm not buying it. What I am seeing right now is a load of absolute waffle. What I'm seeing right now is, I think, personally, the club putting words in Maresca's mouth. I personally am seeing that, and I think it is entirely disrespectful to Raheem Sterling on this matter. I really do think that is the case. Now, what I will say is that loyalty is a very, very strange thing in football. As fans, we demand it from our players, but we as fans do not give our players or even managers that same type of loyalty. We are very quick to jump on someone's back when they're not playing very well. And let's face it, the Raheem Sterling situation, this guy has not been a great purchase for Chelsea. He really has not been a great purchase for Chelsea. He's promised so much from arriving from Manchester City. He's delivered very, very little, in my opinion. However, I see both sides of the argument in that aspect. I see Chelsea being ruthless. I see why Chelsea do want to get rid of him. I do think there have been better ways of that, and I think they could have done it so much earlier so that Sterling could have had a proper preseason, bed in with his new teammates, find a new position elsewhere. But Chelsea have left it till very late. Why have they left it till very late? Because they've got their shiny new toys to play with. They've got their João Felixes. They've got their Pedro Netos. Whoever else they managed to bring in of the 247 players that they've seemingly brought in this summer. They have their shiny new toys, and Sterling has just been cast aside. They don't want to play with him no more. They want him gone. Simple as that. Very, very strange to me, but there you have it. Clark from Liverpool to Salzburg is their new number 10 shirt now, I heard. Good move for Bobby Clark. I really do wish him the best. Really do wish him the best. Obviously linking up with Pep Lijnders, I believe, isn't it? Is it Pep Lijnders? I swear it's Pep Lijnders. I could be wrong. Do look at later on channel, Fletch. Premier League prediction video is out, everybody. Yes, it is. Do check that out. Some interesting games coming up this weekend. So I would love to get your predictions on all of them in that video. Are you watching Chelsea play Conference League later? I might. I don't really know what to expect from that game, to be honest with you. I don't really know what I can gauge from Chelsea, but I might be casting my eye over the Blues, no doubt about it. Gundogan is already back at City. What if Sterling is also going back to City? I don't think Pep would take him back, and I don't think that City would either, for the money that Chelsea may demand and for the wages that Sterling may demand. So I don't think City would ever go back in for Sterling. I don't think Sterling would go back to City. I think he's going elsewhere, in all honesty, my friend. If Chelsea manager had no idea who Sterling was, shows how they always have 60 players in training. I mean, he tried to cover that as well. He tried to say, like, oh, half the squad that I want is training with me, and the other half has been exiled elsewhere. And it just looks like such a bloated squad that needs trimming down. And they're trying to do it, but I don't think they're going about it in the right way, in all honesty. All that money spent, and yet Chelsea has still not brought a real striker yet. It's baffling. It's baffling. I mean, my perception on Chelsea could change if they go and get Victor Osimhen. If they go and get Victor Osimhen, the majority of my perspective and belief on Chelsea may change. But they haven't got him yet. And that situation's dragging. And I don't understand why anybody else isn't looking at Osimhen. There are still reports lingering around that Arsenal could still be interested. And if that's the case, Arsenal need to go in for him and need to get that done ASAP. But I don't understand why that's still lingering in the background. What happens to that striker from Sporting? He still bangs so much goals, but transfer activity is not happening so much around him. Arsenal's transfer activity seems to have halted because they're struggling to get players out of the club. It seems that Arsenal are looking to move players on before they bring players in, which is why, in my personal belief, they are struggling with this Mikel Merino thing to get done. I think the Merino thing is done and dusted, but I think they need to get players out. Now, of course, there is news that Eddie Nketiah is going to be going to Nottingham Forest, so I think that's a very good start for them. Aaron Ramsdale is possibly going to Wolves as well, or somewhere else maybe. So that's another one potentially out the door. But things are moving a little bit slow with Arsenal. I really do think that if they'd have got the wheels moving even quicker on these kinds of outgoings, Arsenal's transfer activity in terms of incomings would have been a lot quicker. They would have got Merino through the door already. They would have got probably a striker. They were looking at that Victor Gyökeres, as you mentioned, the striker from Sporting. So, yeah, there's a lot there. And obviously Chelsea have been lingering around the background of that Gyökeres thing as well. But we do not know. We do not know. Out of context, but what do you think of Ugarte and Man United transfer activity? I think he'd be the perfect signing for United. I think he'd be your best signing of this summer if he was to go through. I think it will happen. The news every single day is that United are edging ever closer to getting this deal done. I think he'd be the perfect signing. I think you need someone to complement Kobbie Mainoo. I think you also need a longer-term player than what Casemiro is. And I think he'd be the perfect signing. I really, really do. I think he'd complement Kobbie Mainoo brilliantly. I don't think he's the best on the ball, but he doesn't need to be the best on the ball. He just needs to be competent enough on the ball to move the ball quickly forward to the more influential players of that Manchester United team, the more creative outlets, the likes of Bruno Fernandes's, Marcus Rashford's to an extent, and obviously Amad Diallo's, people like that. And then they can go and take the ball and be more creative up front. All this guy needs to do is just put out fires. All this guy needs to do is just do the workhorse mentality, the industrial side of the work. He just needs to put out fires. And that is exactly what this guy is best known for and can do to near enough perfection. And I think, like I say, with that in mind, he is a perfect addition to that Manchester United team, in all honesty. So I like the signing of Ugarte as much as it pains me to say as a Liverpool fan. But yeah, I've got to be honest with it. I think this is the perfect signing, and it actually does show that United are seemingly moving in the right direction in terms of actually having people with brains behind the operation. Usually they'd go for someone with more reputation. It wouldn't have surprised me if the old regime at United probably would have gone with someone who was more well known. It wouldn't have surprised me if you would have gone for someone that is very notorious, but maybe coming towards the end of his career, just for a big name and t-shirt sales. So and at least on to the next question, really, do you think Ineos have done well? I think they have done well. Obviously, the proof will be in the pudding. The proof will be as the season continues. I'm still not entirely convinced by Erik ten Hag, but they have given him all the tools to succeed. And whether or not he does or not is going to be down to him. But in terms of bringing in Lenny Yoro, in terms of putting your transfer business out there and trying to compete with different clubs, it does show signs of intent. It does show signs of trying to make a statement out there that I think United did very well under the Sir Alex Ferguson era. And now they're trying to bring that sort of aura back to Manchester United. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be perfect overnight, but it is good signs of intent, good signs of going forward. I like what United's business have done, but obviously we'll wait and see whether it does come to fruition, whether it does reach its full potential and promise. We'll wait and see. Liverpool selling Joe Gomez, Sepp van den Berg, and possibly Nathaniel Phillips. Interesting. That is good money in. We will get more. We will talk about that, actually. We will talk about the Sepp van den Berg stuff because it is good money, but it's not exactly money that we're going to see spent elsewhere, although that probably does cover the fee for Mamadashvili. So we probably will see it spent, but not in the area that we desperately need. Yes, I agree. Great thoughts. Thanks, bro. Appreciate it. Would love to know what you think as well. If we could just could see Scott McTominay, even though I like him, but it's time to go and we need the money. Yeah, I mean, McTominay's an interesting one because he's in my opinion, he's a decent squad player to have, but also he could definitely be someone that that could be cashed in on. I 100% understand where you're coming from with that. Going back to Chelsea, though, going back to the topic at hand, I am, like I say, from Chelsea's point of view, I think it's ruthless. I think it's somewhat a little disrespectful. I think it's even more disrespectful that before he's even out the door, Pedro Neto's already taken the number 7 shirt off him. I think that's a bit crazy as well. I know that obviously it may be considered insignificant and small, being a squad number, but sometimes those things can hold weight at a football club. I talked about the loyalty stuff. I talked about how we expect it from certain players that we like, but we don't expect it from certain players that we don't like. And to those Chelsea fans that are probably praising Chelsea for showing this attitude towards Raheem Sterling, I would just say this. It's okay to have that opinion, but don't come crying if Chelsea decide to do this to a player that you like. If, for example, you are a fan of, say, a Moises Caicedo, a Cole Palmer, and Chelsea do the exact same thing to one of those players that they are doing to Raheem Sterling right now, don't come crying, because you've set the precedent now that you like this kind of mentality, you like this kind of attitude. And if Chelsea are to do this to other players, don't cry when they do it to a player that you like. That is just my thoughts personally on that one. But a lot of people are saying they find it disrespectful from Sterling. The statement was released an hour before. I've heard that it's not exactly true. The statement was released an hour before by the media. This happened a while ago, but it's only been released by the media a while ago, an hour before kickoff, or really was brought to light an hour before kickoff, or something along them lines. And basically, I don't even find it too disrespectful. I think the timing was probably wrong. But other than the fact that he says that he returned to training early, he had 3 years left on his current deal. He wants clarity on the situation. I don't necessarily find it too disrespectful, in all honesty. It was not like he berated the club. It's not like he bashed the club in any way. Like I said, you could argue the timing was poor, but at the same time, was it really that disrespectful? Was it really that poor on his part? And as we know, even from the way that he's worded it, and the way that obviously David Ornstein's talked about how he wants a permanent move out of Chelsea, this isn't about money. The guy is on a pretty wealthy wage as it is, and as he mentions, he has 3 years left on his contract. Chelsea can't force him out of the club, because if they do, the only way that they can do it is to rip up his contract, but they'd still have to pay him a lot of money between the present day and the time that his contract expires. They'll have to pay him or a lot of money in the meantime as a payoff. He knows he's going to be sat there making big money. A lot of these players at Chelsea are going to be making big money with the long-term contracts that they are on. Don't get it twisted. This isn't the first time that something like this has happened in football as a whole. It won't be the last time either. But it also won't probably be the last time that this happens at Chelsea. We all agreed that this long-term contracts thing that Chelsea were putting these kids on was going to be a massive gamble to take. We all said that this was going to be high risk for potential high reward. And if it pays off, Todd Bowley and Clay Lake are a genius. If it fails, there could be situations like this. And that's the unfortunate gamble that obviously Chelsea decided to take. That is the unfortunate part of what Chelsea are facing right now. And this is the beginning. Because I can guarantee, I would bet safe money that this is probably not the last player that is going to be treated this way. This is not the last player to have disgruntled. Disgruntled? Is that even a word? To be disgruntled by this kind of situation developing. This is going to happen again for Chelsea. I can pretty much I'll pretty much safely bet on that. I pretty much will. That will be an issue for Chelsea. It's bizarre in my opinion. It is really, really strange. And like I say, I don't know what side of the fence you guys sit on this, but I understand from Chelsea's perspective getting rid of him. I don't necessarily agree with the timing, and at the same time, I don't necessarily agree with the timing of Sterling's release, shall we say, of the statement. But at the same time, I understand that he needs it from his point of view for his footballing future. From his point of view, he seemingly still has aspirations of playing at a top level. He seemingly has aspirations of getting somehow back into the England setup. Fair play to him if he still has those kinds of plans. But I don't agree with the timing of this from Chelsea. I don't agree with the timing of this from Sterling necessarily. But I understand it from both parts that Chelsea want to move on a player that is taking up a large percentage of the wage bill. I understand that they want to get rid of a player who they have shiny new toys for that they don't see need for anymore. And I understand it from Sterling's point of view that he wants it for the good of his career. So there are so many different aspects and so many different points of view on this. And I think that's the one thing that is getting overlooked is that Chelsea had all summer to communicate this with Raheem Sterling. And they decide to do it just as the season is about to get underway. Seemingly disrespectful and seemingly wrong. And I think that's the bit that's getting really overlooked here is the fact that they did this just then. They had all summer to do it, and then all of a sudden, they bring in João Felix, they bring in Pedro Neto, and suddenly Sterling, you're out the door. And it's not because you're a bad player, it's just because I don't like you as a type of winger that you are. I'm sorry, I'm calling BS on that. Maresca knows Sterling, knew him from his time at Manchester City, knew him from obviously him being in the Premier League. It's not exactly like he's an unknown person from like the French third division or something, with all due respect. He is a well-known winger that has got plenty of experience, a lot of leadership, been there, done it all, one of the most successful players in English football. The guy's done it all. And yet Chelsea are getting rid of him so close to the season beginning. It's so, well, as the season has begun, really. It's very strange to me. It's very, very strange to me. I personally do not necessarily understand the entirety of the situation. I'm just thinking there is no way that FFP is not affected. Chelsea must be investigated, in my opinion. I mean, allegedly, Chelsea's situation is basically that with that way that Roman ran the club, there was no debt or nothing. That's allegedly what's coming out, or basically in a nutshell of what's coming out about Chelsea, to the point where they're allowed to spend all this money. And Chelsea have been a very well-run club under Roman Abramovich, to the point where they had a lot of money to spend because they would use their academy to loan out players, and they would have big money on that. So it does seem crazy to bring in like 240 odd different players, and maybe even more, like in the past few years. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. With all due respect, and yes, I did violate the French league. Not necessarily. I just had to throw something out there, so I do apologize. Jordan, how you doing, dude? Long time no see. Hope you are well, my friend. Fletch, what are you saying? The video, dude. The video. You know. And Adrian, getting gone. No, I didn't, guys. Hope you are both well. Hope you are both well. Getting gone. Who do you mean by getting gone? Sterling. I assume you mean get Sterling gone. I don't personally get it, in all honesty. I personally don't get the situation. Like I say, though, this is the hole that Chelsea have dug themselves in, and this isn't going to be the last player to do this. This is certainly not going to be the last player to do this. I just don't understand how this can continue with Chelsea. I don't understand why, or what's the word I'm looking for here? I don't understand how this can continue with the turnover in the squad. Look, and also I will say on the media thing as well, if this guy wasn't English, the media would not care. It's the fact that he is English. It's the fact that Trevor Chalobah is English. It's the fact that Conor Gallagher is probably English, that they are making a bigger deal about this than it really needs to be. I'm just going to throw that out there now. I'm just going to say the English element is probably why the media are making such a big deal about this. Having said that, I don't understand how Chelsea can continue to do this. Eventually, if things don't get better for them on the pitch, if they don't get into like Champions League football, their financial aspect is going to take a huge hit. The players coming in are going to take a huge hit. And it goes back to what I said in my other video the other day. Chelsea are going to be trying to sign these players. They're going to try and be getting these players to be brought in. Some of them are going to be flipped. Some of them are going to probably reach their potential. Very few of them, but some of them will. And some of them also will just be there to make the squad up for however many years and then be moved on in accordance with time. I don't get how Chelsea can continue, especially if the uncertainty of this, and especially if you see this kind of situation as a player, is this going to make you be tempted to join Chelsea anymore? Like, if you're seeing a guy like Sterling with all his experience, all his wealth of knowledge, experience, leadership, all of that stuff, as well as the kind of player that he is, just be cast aside by Chelsea in a squad that definitely needs it. would you go then to Chelsea? Would you go to Chelsea if you know that this kind of situation can happen? The volatile, uncertain, unpredictable way that Chelsea go about their business, about everything. And again, going back to it as well, we did say that this kind of thing will happen. A new manager after Pochettino is going to come in and is instantly going to go, right, well, I know we signed about 100 new players in the past year, but I only want to keep about 30 of them, and the other 70 they can be got rid of. Like, it's going to happen again. Because as soon as this Maresca situation fails, if it does fail, which is, in my opinion, going to happen, he'll be gone. You'll bring in a new manager, and then players again will be under very uncertain times. Half of them will be sold. Half of them will be kept. And they'll only be kept because you can't get rid of them. They'll only be kept because you can't you can't get rid of them because of the wages, the price that you want, all of that stuff. It's a complete mess from the outside looking in at Chelsea. And every time that Maresca opens his mouth and talks about the situation, I don't believe it anymore. I don't believe it anymore. I don't even think he believes the words. I personally think it's the club putting words in his mouth to try and calm the situation down, to try and make it look better than what it is. I really can't say it any other way. All right. Half their team, get him gone. Half their team. I mean, that would take a lot of doing for half of their team, bro. What do you think of Logi Ramanzani going to Leeds? I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. I don't really know the guy. So I can't really comment. Sell seller, get Sterling in. What do you say? Absolutely not, bro. Absolutely not. To be fair, though, it is kind of karma on Raheem Sterling because of the way that he forced himself out of Liverpool. So the Liverpool fan in me wants to say, karma, deal with it. But no, I have to be truthful. I have to be completely honest. So ain't half of them training in the USA. I think, so, like I say, I think he's got his core squad with him, and then the other half of the squad is training elsewhere. They're training with either the kids, or they're training in exile, or they're training at home. Like I say, they've got that much of a bloated squad that they are basically covering a large portion of training pitches across the world, it seems. Like, it's absolutely crazy what they've got on right now. Agree. Would you rather play for Fulham or Crystal Palace than Chelsea? Crystal Palace. Like, I'm only going to Chelsea for the money. That's the only thing I'd go to Chelsea for right now is the money. Like, if I weren't interested in playing football, I just wanted to make a lot of money, I would go to Chelsea because I'm guaranteed to get at the very least a 5-year contract. I'd probably wager to get as high a deal as I could. And it doesn't matter whether I played or not because I could just sit on the bench or just sit at home and do nothing. I'd be making a lot of money. Obviously, like I say, the opposite can't be said. The same thing can't be said of Sterling because he seemingly wants out of Chelsea. He's got 3 years left on his contract. He's on big wages. He could easily just sit at home and do nothing, but he wants to leave Chelsea. So fair play to him. If football is his main priority, which on certain levels, some players are not like that. That is the case, but at some point, it's going to come back and bite Chelsea this, especially, like I say, if results don't pick up, if they don't get the trophies that they are going for or they want to go for, if they don't get the Champions League football that they need, it's going to backfire horribly. Because eventually, this seemingly bottomless pit of money that Chelsea seems to be throwing around will eventually dry up. It's not bottomless. It may seem it, but it isn't. And it's eventually going to dry up. And I don't even know their situation in terms of FFP or PSR or whatever. I know that obviously selling the likes of Conor Gallagher will be good for them. I know that obviously selling maybe Shalabar may be good for them, and whoever else they can muster up from their academy and from their homegrown setup and all of that stuff. I just don't understand how they can continue to do this. I haven't even looked at their squad properly to see how many homegrown players they currently now have. It's very, very strange to me. And, you know, even with their latest edition of João Felix, again, you can't tell me that this is the guy that they wanted all along. Again, you can try and dress it up as much as you want, that this is the guy you wanted all along. I'm not buying it. You wanted Samu Amarodian. You didn't get him. You did not get him because the deal broke down. He broke the deal down, allegedly, depending on which sources you read. You then go for Felix, who is a different player, who plays in a different position. I'm not buying it. If you wanted Felix, why don't you just go straight for Felix? He was there a couple of years ago. You know all about Felix. He was there at Chelsea for 6 months on loan. It just reeks of chaos from the outside looking in. It really, really does reek of chaos from the outside looking in at Chelsea Football Club right now. It really, really does. And that's why I worry for them this season. I'm not a Chelsea fan. I'm a Liverpool fan. And I hope that Chelsea continue to be in the mud. But if I am to be open, fair, honest, objective, I fear for Chelsea because I don't see a way in which this Chelsea squad is going to thrive under this management. And I feel sorry a little bit for Enzo Maresca, but at the same time, he should have known what he was walking into. He should have known what he was walking into because it's not his fault that all these players are on ridiculous contracts. It's not his fault that all these players are on ridiculous money. It's not his fault that this Chelsea scouting network is finding these players that may have promise, may have potential, but ultimately the vast majority are there to try and turn a profit later on down the line. It's not his fault. But at the same time, he's the one who left Leicester. He's the one who took the job. He's the one who got himself in this situation. So ultimately, I don't necessarily feel that sorry for him. I don't necessarily feel that sorry for him. He should have known what he was getting himself into. From the outside looking in, especially if we can see it, he should have been able to see it. And I'm just not buying anything that comes out of Chelsea right now. I'm really, really not buying what's coming out of Chelsea, especially this whole the whole thing about Sterling's a really good player, but he's just not the type of winger that we want, mate. You've known him for a while. You've known what type of winger he is. You know the kind of player he is. You can't honestly tell me that a few days before the season, you've only just realised and worked out who Raheem Sterling is, what he is, and what he's doing. Simple as that, as far as what I'm concerned. It just strikes me as very, very odd. Very, very odd indeed. I don't personally, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. And this Chelsea situation is an absolute madness. It's an absolute shambles. And in my personal opinion, like I say, I think it's only going to get worse. I think it is only going to get worse as far as what Chelsea are concerned. If they don't get the results on the pitch, if they don't get the trophies that they desire, if they continue to chop and change manager as well, I personally just do not see a world in which Chelsea recover from this, unless obviously Todd Boehly and Clear Lake are removed and they bring in some football people with some actually football brains to make the decisions. Their scouting seems messed up. They seem to be completely backwards in their approach. They seem to be all thinking about the money rather than the future of Chelsea, the success of Chelsea. They are polar opposites to what Roman Abramovich was all about. I would fear for Chelsea. If I didn't want to see them in the mud so much, I would fear for them. I worry about their season. I worry about their long-term future. I feel sorry for some of those Chelsea fans that are obviously the die-hard ones that have been there through it all throughout their entire life, not just the ones that basically started supporting them as soon as they actually won some stuff in the mid 2000s, the ones that have been there before that, maybe even some of the ones that, you know, probably grew up in the kind of Chelsea area, I guess. You know, there's some of the local ones and not just the kind of glory hunter ones. I feel sorry for them. But yeah, that is what's happening at Chelsea right now. And it's kind of funny and it's kind of a bit crazy and it's a complete circus, it seems. But that is the situation at Chelsea Football Club right now. And I, for one, like I say, I'm liking it. I am liking it. I'm a sick freak for liking it. I get it. But at the same time, if I'm to be fair, yeah, it's a shame. It's a little bit of a shame, and I do feel sorry for some of those fans because you deserve better. Some of you. The majority of the Chelsea fan base are extremely impatient, and that's why I think Maresca's probably going to also be out by like Christmas time. And then you start again. You start the whole process again. You bring in a new manager, and the new manager goes, right, well, you see all these players that we brought in last summer. Well, I only going to keep about 4 of them, so you can get rid of them. Oh wait, I don't make any decisions. I'm just the head coach. I have to leave it to the likes of Todd Bowley and these other people, these other clowns that have got no idea about football and what they're doing and who half of these people are. Actually, they don't even know themselves who half these players are. It's got to a point where a complete unknown, they could drag someone off the street of London to go and play for Chelsea, and we'd all just sit there and go, I didn't even know who this guy is, don't even know who this guy is, but I agree that this guy is a Chelsea player. Because we wouldn't know. How would we know? There's so many unknown players in this club. It's bizarre. It is bizarre. But there you have it. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and probably greatly appreciated. And get involved in the chat like so many have. Really do appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much. Next story. Marc Guehi going to Newcastle, it seems. It seems that Newcastle and Crystal Palace are edging ever closer towards a move for the England centre-back. And it seems like a deal could potentially be struck in the very imminent future. This is an interesting story for a number of reasons. One, we know that obviously Newcastle have been chasing Guehi for a while. We know that Guehi's been subject to much transfer speculation, not just surrounding Newcastle this summer, but other clubs as well. We know that obviously he's made a big name for himself since joining Crystal Palace and obviously being a mainstay in that Palace team and obviously being a big cog in that Palace setup. But also it's a big story because what has unfolded at Crystal Palace in the past few days in terms of Joachim Andersen, his defensive centre-back partner, also seemingly being on his way out of Selhurst Park after it's emerged that Fulham have struck a deal with Palace to sign him. I'm confused by this. Talk about confusion. I'm confused again by this. I like these two as a defensive pairing. I like both centre-backs. But for Palace to lose both of them, now I think they are going to be compensated heavily with some decent money being brought in. And it's going to be very interesting to see what the contingency plan is as far as what Gomez is concerned. Not Gomez. As far as what Anderson and Guehi's concerned and Palace is concerned. But to sell both of them at the same time, one of them, maybe there was plenty of talk that maybe they would lose one of them at the very least. But to lose both of them, that's a massive blow for Palace. And it's going to be very interesting to see who they do bring in because Palace have got a massive hole to fill at the heart of their defence. Like Anderson and Guehi, two very consistent players. I wouldn't say they are world class, but I would say that they are very, very strong. They're very, very good. They are solid defenders. I think Guehi, in particular, very, very good. And I think that obviously he could have made it at probably one of the big 6 clubs. Newcastle is not a bad shout. A team that's on the cusp of breaking into the top 6 clubs, I would say, probably for maybe a couple more years to come yet before they really start to make their presence known, I would say. But the Fulham one is interesting. We know obviously Fulham were after a centre-back and they managed to land on Joachim Andersen. Very much interested to know where this does leave Crystal Palace. Now, the obvious one, as Balam said earlier, is Joe Gomez. And that would be a brilliant signing for Palace. Joe Gomez would be a brilliant signing. Not only is he versatile enough, but he's also got a lot of experience. He's won a lot with Liverpool over the past decade of him being at the club. That would be huge for Crystal Palace to obtain a guy like him. And like I say, Liverpool are very much open to selling him. It would make a lot of sense. He would be walking into a Crystal Palace setup in which he would be the number 1 starting centre-back because of the obvious thing I just said about the 2 starting centre-backs being ripped out of Crystal Palace. But yeah, it's bizarre that Palace would let both of them go at the same time, but it could also mean that it's going to be an exciting end to the transfer window as far as what Oliver Glasner's side are concerned, because they will need to go out and they will need to recover. They've already lost Michael Olise. They've now gone and lost Joachim Andersen. They may lose Marc Guehi if things are to continue the way that they are looking to go in terms of a deal being struck. That's 3 huge losses in this transfer window. Gomez coming in could be huge for them. It might be huge for Gomez as well. He finally gets the starting position that he is so desired and deserves. My only question mark over Gomez would be his injury record. It's not exactly the best. So that would be cause for concern for Crystal Palace. But at the same time, I still feel like if they can get him to be fit and firing, if they can get him to be strong, you get a leader, you get a versatile player, you get a strong centre-back that is going to be a worthwhile addition to that squad. That is going to be, in my opinion, an upgrade on the 2 centre-backs. He just needs to be partnered with someone that's gonna match him or is going to compensate for him. He has all the makings of a fantastic, well-rounded defender. Palace would be extremely lucky to have him. And I would be very sad to see him go at Liverpool, given the way that obviously he played last season. But it seems that this guy's got no future at Liverpool. Even though Arne Slot basically said, if we keep him around, we keep him around. I would welcome him to fight for his place. It seems that he is going to be leaving. I don't know. I'm sort of open to it. I'm sort of not. I don't even know. I don't even know from a Liverpool perspective and side of things. But from the perspective of Crystal Palace, this is huge. I think for Newcastle as well, it's big as well. Marc Guehi coming in would be massive for them. Massive in terms of upgrading and improving and reinforcing their defensive side of things. That would be massive for them. Be massive for Palace to get rid of him, and then it's all about who they come to, because all of a sudden, this optimistic Crystal Palace side that ended the season so brilliantly last season has now got a few question marks over it in terms of the progression, in terms of the continuation under Oliver Glasner. They ended the season really, really well, but since then, like I say, they've lost Michael Olise. They're going to be losing Joachim Andersen. They're going to be losing Marc Guehi. That's 3 key players for them. 2 big leaders in the heart of the defense. 2 very well-known, very, very strong defenders. and obviously a winger that was highly rated, highly sought of, and we kind of knew he was destined, with all due respect to Crystal Palace, for bigger and better things. But, you know, Palace have lost them now. Are we starting to see Palace in a different light, or do we need to wait and see what happens with Palace between now and the end of this transfer window? I'm very much intrigued by all this, and I'm very much intrigued to see how Palace do recover from this. If they are to strike a deal with Newcastle, if this Joachim Andersen is to go off without a hitch, I'm very much intrigued by all of what is to come when it comes to Crystal Palace, Joachim Andersen, Marc Guehi, and anything and everything else. I'm just trying to find it here from David Ornstein. He tweeted out yesterday saying exclusive Fulham, a couple of days ago actually, Fulham have tonight reached agreement in principle with Crystal Palace to sign Joachim Andersen. Compromise found on fee, £30 million, including add-ons. All parties working to finalise deal for 28-year-old Denmark defender to join Fulham from Crystal Palace. That's a massive signing for Fulham. That is a massive beneficial signing for Fulham. And if Newcastle can sign Guehi, that is a massive signing for Newcastle. It's a massive loss, and a double loss at that for Crystal Palace, in my personal opinion. Where do they turn their attention to? Like I say, there's Joe Gomez available. They may have a couple of other names there that Palace fans might be able to clue me in on. But we're waiting to see on that. I personally am of the understanding that the now or the once was optimistic look of Crystal Palace might not be as optimistic and as bright a future as what we maybe predicted right from the off. I'm very much interested to see how this one does turn out. I'm very much interested to see how this does go. But it's a strange one. It is definitely a strange one. And I'm not quite sure I understand the forward thinking of this. And especially for 30 to 50 million or 60 million or whatever Guehi's going for. The 30 million for Anderson, the 60 million for Guehi, seemingly. Letting them both go, where you could have really rinsed those teams for as much as you could get, keeping them as well. Because especially the Anderson one, it's going to Fulham, a forward step for him. Wouldn't you rather stay with Crystal Palace rather than go to Fulham? I don't know. It does seem very strange to me. It does seem pretty weird to me that this would happen for him, especially. Guehi to Newcastle, I can understand the exciting prospect of a project at Newcastle that Guehi would love to be a part of, and a lot of players that would love to be a part of. But yeah, I'm very much intrigued by the Anderson one. I'm very much intrigued by all of this, really. And I'm very much intrigued to see what the reaction is of Crystal Palace, what the reaction of their fans are like, and what the reaction of the club is in terms of losing both of their star centre-backs. We'll wait and see. We shall wait and see. Liverpool, my club, team I love, team that constantly this summer has been driving me insane with a number of issues and a complete lack of signings. Zero. Nothing. Nada. Bagel. Donut. Naught. Zero. No signings whatsoever. It's frustrating, especially when you look at a team like Chelsea, who are the polar opposite. You've got Chelsea buying players left, right, and centre. Like I said the other day, they're basically signing a new player every day, like it's an advent to the countdown of the end of the transfer window. And yet, there's Liverpool who have done nothing, and we're seemingly struggling to get this Mamardashvili deal over the line. We're after Georgi Mamashvili, of course, Georgian goalkeeper from Valencia, who are going to loan back to Valencia for the season. And we are seemingly dragging our heels in that one as well. I don't know what's taking so long. I don't even know why we are taking so long. We should just put the money on the table and deal with it. Everything's seemingly in place. The player actually does want to leave Valencia and join Liverpool. Everything is seemingly in place for that to happen. We are just seemingly dragging our heels yet again, like we always do. And like the problem all summer has been a lack of execution in the transfer market. What the hell is going on with that? Anyway, whilst we may lack in signings, we are certainly not lacking getting players out of the door. Now, of course, Joe Gomez, as we mentioned, might be another player to leave, but we've already sold the likes of Fabio Carvalho. Obviously, Thiago's left after his contract expired. John Matic's left after his contract expired. Today, of course, we know about I should have started because it was Ballum said it. I just want to bring it up just obviously to credit whoever brought it up, and it was of course Ballum. There we go. Found it. Bobby Clark from Liverpool to Salzburg. That has basically been announced today. I think it was for something in the region of 10 million pounds, something along them lines, which is decent money for a young prospect like him. It's a shame it didn't work out. But there you have it. Liverpool again looking at the financial aspect of their situation rather than the potential prospect of someone like that. And there's probably more that are going to exit. We've heard over the past 24 hours or so that Sepp Vandenberg is set to join Brentford. Allegedly, Brentford have got a deal in place with Liverpool for the defender, reaching somewhere in the region of £30 million. Again, it's decent money. But that money is not going to be spent on what we need. We've sold Fabio Carvalho for 27.5 million. We sold Bobby Clark for 10 million. We are going to be going on to sell Sepp Vandenberg for 25 million. That is somewhere in the region of just under 65 million pounds, give or take. We have made 65 million pounds on those players this summer alone. And that's just them free. We've probably made a lot more. We've probably saved a lot more money with obviously getting rid of Thiago and obviously with not signing Matip on. So what the hell are we playing at in terms of these signings? Why is it we have made 65 million, just under 65 million, just over 60 million on those players alone? And yet we are struggling to get a goalkeeper in who's not even going to be a goalkeeper for this season, but he's going to be a goalkeeper for either next season or the season after. Why are we dragging our heels on that one? Why are we not going after an alternative to Martin Zubamendi, who apparently is our only defensive midfielder on a short list of defensive midfielders, which was set to be our priority this summer? That was meant to be our priority. The number 6 position was meant to be our priority for this summer. And yet Martin Zubamendi was plan A and plan A only. We didn't have an alternative. We didn't have a plan B, apparently. But hey, we've made quite a bit of money on these players. So here's the money, and we're just not going to spend it. We're going to tuck it safely in our back pockets for later, for our own personal doing. Like I say, our ownership has been around the negotiating table more to try and buy Bordeaux this summer than they have in trying to buy Liverpool transfer targets. That's the sad reality of the situation, and that exactly shows you where their loyalties lie. That shows you where their thoughts are, where their prospects are. They don't care. They do not care. And it's been a horrible first summer for this new regime of like Michael Edwards in his current position, and the new sporting director of Richard Hughes, who have seemingly been sat twiddling their thumbs all summer, and then have gone, oh, we need to do something. Goalkeeper, we'll do something that's pretty easy, pretty straightforward, and doesn't even really need to be done this summer. But if we do something, it shows you that we've actually done something this summer. So we'll go and sort the goalkeeper thing out because that's easy to do. The guy's got a 30 million euro release clause, allegedly, as all players in Spain do. So that's pretty much straightforward, right? We can easily do that. Then we can just loan him back because obviously we don't need him for this year. So yeah, there we go. We've done something at least. No fan can go crazy because we've at least done something wrong. We can. I keep saying this. Liverpool have had a massive opportunity this summer to make statements in the transfer window, to show Arne Slot that we completely and 100% trust him in his ability as long as we give him the tools he needs to succeed. We have an opportunity to not only go again for this season, like we were in a title race last season, but to go further in that title race and to redeem ourselves in the competitions that we failed in. To redeem ourselves in an FA Cup in which we lost in the quarterfinals to Manchester United of all teams last season. Despite that, United were an absolute car crash in that campaign. We have a chance to redeem ourselves in a higher tier tournament than the Europa League in the form of the Champions League, which is going to have a brand new format, by the way, which means there's going to be even more games that these Liverpool players will need to play. There is probably going to be a higher bracket of competition in that tournament than what we are used to, and and we're going into that competition with a squad that couldn't even beat Atalanta in the quarterfinals. The opportunity for Liverpool to go bigger and better and beyond the last campaign was right there for the taking this summer. And with only, 8 days left, just over a week to go of this transfer window, we have signed no one. 0 players. Nada. Nothing. Nothing. We have done nothing to improve this squad in terms of fresh faces, fresh ideas, new players. Nothing. We have done nothing. So the opportunity's gone a-begging. The opportunity has gone a-begging. Now, I still think we have the 3rd best team in the Premier League. I am still pretty confident that Liverpool will finish in the top 4 this season. I'm pretty confident that it will be a 3rd place finish for Liverpool. If we have a good display as well in all the other competitions that we are in this season, if we make it to the latter stages of, say, the Carabao, FA Cup and Champions League, I will at least be somewhat happy in a way with Arne Slot. Not the board, not the ownership, not the club. I'll be happy with Arne Slot's ability because he will show that if he can come in, take over this team and still manage to get them to a decent position with them all being a year older from where they were under Jurgen Klopp, from having taken over in his debut season in the Premier League, I will be somewhat on a little level happy with Arne Slot. And I'll be looking at it as if to say, right, we need to back this guy. There is something to this guy. If we are to fail, you may look at it as the manager's fault. And depending on how he handles himself, what he does in those certain games, you can maybe make that argument. But I'd also say that the club, the ownership, the people behind the scenes did not give him the tools to succeed. And that's the reality of the situation. Whichever way round it goes, Slot is either going to be miraculous and do brilliant things, or he's going to fail, and the majority of it is going to be down on the club that didn't give him the tools to succeed. I didn't back him enough with the tools to succeed. You seriously cannot tell me Martin Zubimendi was the be-all and end-all this summer. You can't tell me that after putting out a statement that read, we are looking at a number 6 and a DM is what our main priority is this summer, you do not go out there and get a 6. You cannot do that. It's ridiculous. It's a joke. But hey, what the hell do I know? What the hell do I know, right? I'm just a random, crazy, rambling fan. Trust the process, right? Yeah. I tried to be ultra positive. I tried to follow and tag that line because I genuinely believe that Michael Edwards is back. Richard Hughes is a much sought of and highly rated sporting director. I tried to believe that things were going to very much be improved upon at Liverpool. And this summer has been dreadful. This summer has been so boring, so terrible, so just shocking. Just absolutely shocking as far as what we're concerned. We have nothing and no one to show for it. As much as I want there to, nothing and no one. And we move on. Like I say, the sporting director has only done one thing all summer, which is pretend to even try to negotiate or negotiate very poorly for Zubimendi. And the other thing is to bring in a goalkeeper that is not going to be brought in for this season, but for the next season or the season after. Good job, guys. Great job. Like I say, if we are to get third, if we are to have a decent display in all of the competitions that we're in this season, Arne Slot is amazing. And I will back him, and I do back him now. He wasn't my first choice, as with a lot of Liverpool fans, he wasn't our first choice. But he's here now. He's shown decent signs in the early days of his reign as Liverpool manager. There have been some nice football being played at times. There's been some decent results, including pre-season, of course. There's only been one really competitive game. The signs are there. But in terms of silverware this season, ain't going to happen. If we get a couple of big name players in, though, between now and the end of the transfer window, between now and the 8 days, which is extremely unlikely and probably not going to happen, things can obviously change very quickly. Things often do change very quickly in football. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen. It looks like, from my perspective at least, we will sign Mamardashvili. It will take time. It will probably take till the deadline. They're probably leaving it till deadline day. This is how delusional that they've become and how this weird PR thing happens. They probably will leave it until deadline day to make it seem like we're active and we're doing something, when really we are just leaving it till the last second just because we can, and just because obviously we're not going to be using Mamardashvili for at least a year, maybe even 2 years. Maybe next season we send him out on loan again for another year. But there doesn't seem to be a timer on this deal. We can take our time with it. We can even probably complete the deal after the transfer window's closed, and we can probably set it up for January. And it doesn't really make a difference. The only thing that would make a difference is that maybe, I don't know, the time of the loan may be extended. Maybe we'll send him to Valencia for an 18-month loan or something along them lines. I don't know, but yeah, we're taking our time with this one for no apparent reason other than to take our time. Our sporting director seems to have basically been on holiday all summer. FSG have been negotiating, trying to buy other football clubs rather than look at the ones that they have. And we are left in a situation where we are unprepared. Unprepared again, because our ownership is looking too far forward rather than what is happening in the here and now. And that is probably the best way to put how Liverpool are run. We are looked at as being 2 or 3 years down the line rather than in the present day. And that's the sad reality of it. And it's horrible. And it irritates me. But that is the reality of our football club for the way it is right now. What else is there to say? We're signing a goalkeeper that we're not going to be getting until at the very least next year. And that's it. No left back, no DM, no striker, no left winger, no cover for Salah. We're pushing it all the way back for next year. In which, by the way, there will be more holes to cover for next year. In which, by the way, as I said earlier on this week, it will come out in the news that Liverpool will go again in January. They will spend big in January. Then we won't. And then they'll get the news that the right player wasn't available. They'll try again in the summer. They will have a war chest that they can dive into, as we always hear every single year. And then we get to the summer. We probably will buy someone next summer, but it will probably be someone that we should have bought this summer. And then the news will come out that we could have gone in for more, but because we didn't spend last summer, we kind of had to fix the problems of last summer. So the budget was actually significantly reduced to just what we needed. And then we'll push everything back as we normally do for a year. The next summer, we probably will need to definitely go and get a left winger. We probably will be looking at Anthony Gordon. But will we get Anthony Gordon? I highly doubt it. I highly, highly, highly doubt it. You know why? Because he'll cost a lot of money. Newcastle want to keep him. And he'll probably go to somewhere like Manchester City. They'll probably organise some sort of swap deal in which Jack Grealish goes to Newcastle, Anthony Gordon goes to Man City, and there you have it. Liverpool miss out on another top quality player again. All because this ownership are incompetent, all because this ownership are thinking 2 or 3 years into the future rather than what they are missing for the here and now in the present. And we struggle completely to live in the present moment. Just the way that it goes. Nick here says that what if Sterling is coming way back home? No. Nope. We already have one winger in Luis Diaz that looks good on the eye, but is not really that great in terms of end product. And whilst I like certain things about Raheem Sterling, and I don't necessarily think he's a terrible player, I don't want him back at Liverpool. In saying that, though, I just realised I didn't actually, when talking about Sterling, I didn't actually say where I think Sterling will end up. So I'd love to know from you, Nick, where do you think Sterling will go? Do you think he will stay in the Premier League? Do you think that there is another team, maybe top 6-wise, that would take him? Where do you think Raheem Sterling will go? Because I think he could do a decent job for like if I'm talking top 6, I'm thinking maybe a Tottenham. I don't think he'd fit in. I know he'd fit in with Arteta because Arteta plays a bit like Pep and Sterling obviously played very well under Pep Guardiola for a few years. So he'd fit in well with Arsenal, but I don't think Arsenal would take him because of wages, money, and the prospect of there being better players out there, better suited for Arsenal's vision. Liverpool is an absolute no-go. He wouldn't go back to Manchester City, neither would Pep take him back at Man City. Man United, I don't think they would take him. They wouldn't take him. If this was the United of like a few years ago before Ineos, I feel like they would take him, or they would at least give their interest in him, but I don't think they take him now. So that just leaves Tottenham for me at the big six. And I think Tottenham probably would throw their hat into the ring as well. Outside of that, though, unless you're looking at somewhere abroad, like a Dortmund or something would probably take a punt on him or something. I don't know where he'd go. I really don't know where he would go. I'd love to know what you think, but maybe an AC Milan or something. I know they obviously have their own better players in those wing positions. But I'm just trying to throw names out there of places where he'd go and seeing if anything sticks. Like anywhere. Barcelona, maybe. As mad as it may sound, Barcelona have been after a left winger for a very, very long time. They failed seemingly with Nico Williams. They've seemingly failed in their pursuit of Luis Diaz, although I hope again that they come back in for him. But we're waiting to see. But maybe a Barcelona needing a left winger, maybe for like a year or two, it wouldn't necessarily be a bad idea. I don't know. I don't know where he'd go, to be honest. Any ideas, bro? Any ideas of where he would go? Would love to know what you have to say on the future of Raheem Sterling. I was a Klopp fan since his days at Dortmund, but didn't know anything about Slot before taking charge at Liverpool. Anyway, I hope everything is going well for him and for the club. Yeah, I mean, I think the first time I heard about Slot was last year. I think Tottenham were interested in taking him on at their club. It's in the aftermath of Antonio Conte, and Tottenham were obviously looking at about 20 different managers again, and Slot's name obviously became a strong contender until obviously Postecoglou got the role. So I did know about Slot there and did a bit of research into him. Didn't really think too much about him, to be honest. I obviously knew about his style of play being interesting, and obviously that he was doing a fairly considered decent job, shall we say, in the Eredivisie. But I didn't really think too much of him at the time. And then all of a sudden, of course, how fast things can change. He's now the Liverpool manager. So we shall see. We shall see how he does. We shall see how Liverpool do. Very much interested in all of this, really, in all of this playing out. Interested to see what happens in the final 8 days of the transfer window. Interested to see what happens with this Raheem Sterling situation. Did Newcastle get this Marc Guehi deal over the line? Very much interested with all of this, of course, and just to kind of tie everything up on the Raheem Sterling stuff. I don't know where his future ends up. I really don't know. And I know that David Ornstein reports that maybe it's not, he wants a permanent deal out of Chelsea, but there still could be the possibility that maybe he gets a loan deal with an obligation to buy at the end of it or something along them lines. I just don't know where he'd go. Like I say, Barcelona, for me, they need a winger. They're clearly after a left winger. They didn't get Nico Williams this summer. So maybe that could be a possibility. PSG, I don't know. I really don't know. There's been some mad stories in this transfer window already that it wouldn't surprise me if Sterling was to pull off a madness and join a club of that nature anyway. So I'm interested to see what happens with Raheem Sterling, and I'd love to know what you guys think and feel about his future. Where does his footballing future lie? Will it be in the Premier League still, or will it be abroad? I'd love to know what you guys think and feel on that particular topic. But look, we've been rambling on for about an hour and 20 minutes now. I think it's time to call it there. So, as I always say on these videos, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of this entire Raheem Sterling situation? What do you make of anything that I talked about in this video, really, whether it be about Joachim Anderson, Marc Guehi, Liverpool, Mamardashvili, Joe Gomez, anybody and everything that I talked about in this video. I would love to get your opinions, your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings on in the chat, in the comments, wherever it may be. I'm sure it'll make for great and interesting reading. Otherwise, hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you are new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always very greatly appreciated. Get involved, like I say, in the comments in the chat about future videos or about situations or certain things I've talked about in this video. It would be great to hear from you all on that. Otherwise, thanks to everyone for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. Thank you all for coming along, taking time out to come and hear me rant and to obviously join in the conversation. Thank you to everyone that did join in the chat. You're all absolute legends. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll speak to you again very, very, very soon. Thanks everyone. Peace. Take care.